pick up the pieces.
Our upcoming events are fair coordination, and the details will be on the website. So I'm the moderator for the evening, and my name is Lisa. I think we'll start with Steve. Do you want to say a few words?
I can. Welcome everyone. My name is Steven, and I'm from actually from Boston myself. So I live in New Hampshire now. I actually just came down here to join in with George and Demetrios and folks. We actually came down here to meet for the day at another conference, and I just got lucky to be able to join in with you guys. I'm the owner of the Lean Six Sigma group on LinkedIn. You might have seen me if you're a member of our group. I also manage about 100 other groups. I'm one of the biggest social networkers in the world. I basically have millions of followers, mostly professional executives. I work in the healthcare space as well. One of the first Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belts, so I go around doing transformations in companies all over the world. I led the first Eli Lilly deployment in pharma. I've worked with Children's Hospital, deployment, hospital patient care, outsourcing, insurance companies like CVS Caremark or Universal American. So I do a lot of work with helping to improve process quality, speed, and cost. And so if you guys are looking for support or questions around how to reach a market, how to do that from a social networking perspective, what's going on in the market, I consult for companies like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. So when they're looking for expert advice on social marketing, they call me. I'm part of their actual development teams when it comes to how to develop the market to make it so it's useful for us. So it's kind of an honor, but I do a lot of work on social networking as part of my business as well. I'm the president of the International Standard for Lean Six Sigma, so I help a lot of other consultancy firms and conferences like IQPC or ASQ to bring thousands of people together and run events. I help get the word out, make sure everybody knows about it. I've also written a number of books. I mean, a lot of books, mostly case studies and thought ideas around some of the different tools and methods that we use in process improvement. So I'm happy to answer questions and see if I can help any of you if I can tonight. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
So, are we starting with you, George?
Oh, you might as well. I've travelled a fair bit.
So George is the founder and CEO of Lean Thinking Company, which is actually in Australia. He and his company takes pride in changing management and improving mindsets of various people. They use mindsets as their foundation. So now it's all you, George.
Thank you, thank you. I've only got 5 or 6 pages of a PowerPoint slide, okay, just to go through. But one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, and we've got some young entrepreneurs here who are growing businesses. Our business is really about having one particular goal, and that's making people feel comfortable that they want to turn to work and they actually love their job and they go home feeling really happy. That's what you guys need to do as leaders, right? It's pretty simple stuff. Just make your people feel happy, and guess what? They're going to do it. And management, get out of the way. That's pretty much what we teach. And we've been doing this now since 2010. And it's really simple. If you actually keep a process of just making people feel good, but understanding what triggers they like, they'll turn up each and every day happy and consistent, and they'll go home happy and consistent, right? That's what you want. So most companies tend to change and change and change and change, and people have no idea what's going on. And in fact, I believe management are a root cause of mental health in the workplace. I really do. So I'm not bagging management, but it's a fact. Some of them are not emotionally connected really, really well. And I'm going to go through a scenario with some of our clients to give you a little bit of insight into what we do. And hopefully, oh, that's John Piselli's one.
Oh.
You better give me mine because, like, come on. Oh, holy moly.
Is this yours?
No, that's John's.
No.
You can wing it.
I can wing it. Don't
It
worry
says
about
John
it.
right on it. Yeah.
So, don't worry about the slides, so I can talk underwater. Tell me what you think mental health at the workplace actually is. What do you think it actually is? How would you describe it? What do you think it is?
Mental health in the workplace?
Yeah.
I think a lot of what you already said is feeling happy about the work that you're doing, and then it's satisfying, and then you are appropriately challenged in the work done.
And do most of your guys at work bounce out of bed to turn up to work to go home?
No.
They don't. How would you describe it?
Well, there's a lot of people that, you know, sort of that live to work and work to live
Yeah.
mentality, right?
So they're not emotionally engaged, right? Okay, so do you, anyone else, how would you describe, you're in the leadership coaching executive group, what do you see in your customers, and have we got a really good handle? Are we doing well with culture? Are we driving culture on the upwards?
I think it depends. It depends on the sophistication of the leader, how much they're paying attention to employee engagement, creating values that drive the organization, and engaging the staff in creating the values and operationalizing them. I just did a gig last week where they invited the staff to define the values. So that's on a really high engagement level.
See, our culture's about the staff member being the most smartest person, me being the most dumbest. You know, I should seriously just be the janitor. That to me tells me I've got a pretty good company, right? And it's all about having a culture from bottom up. So do you guys have staff at the moment in your business?
Just a founding team.
Yep, okay. So how do you want your culture to be? Can you visualize what that will be?
Yeah, I want to be able to see the work you produce. At a lot of these, maybe not a lot of bigger companies, but at a lot of companies, you don't really get full recognition for the work that you do. Even just to say, oh yeah, you did a good job on that last assignment, just like a little words of encouragement goes a long way.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
So I think companies also need to consider the fact that the millennials are at a different level, that they grew up with technology, so for them, they need to be connected to a company emotionally versus just coming there to do work.
Yeah.
So they are a different segment altogether compared to the people with family and such. For them, they need to come to work and do what needs to be done to earn the salary, right?
Yeah.
So it's a different segment altogether.
What's an average salary in the US here? What does an average worker take per annum? Is it 40,000 or 50,000?
50,000 is the average.
50,000. Okay, so basically, if you're going to pay someone $50,000, and if their heart and mind is still left at home, do you reckon you're really getting value of $50,000? You're probably not, right? So I've saved companies close to $200 million because what I do is I look at people and I think to myself, how emotionally engaged is this person? And then I go out to the leadership team and I say, hey, has Max actually reached capacity? How did we know that Max has actually hit capacity? So as a sporting coach, I try to get my players up right on the week to week. Do your guys do that today? Because to me, that's a great company. A great company can do that. So basically, our company is about talking about cultural change. And I'm trying to do that on a really big scale. So this particular image here is through LinkedIn. I'm the founder of the Lean Thinking Company. The Lean fraternity, there's thousands and thousands of people, okay? I went out there with a simple post to say, hey, how dumb are we? We're all dumb because we're not working together. Why don't we actually share? Whatever I've got is yours. Whatever you've got is mine. But let's go out and help people. So you know what? I got all these people to like it. All these people liked, comments. So I've given everyone $20,000 worth of free licenses to go out and help people. How many of these people do you reckon have come back and said, I'm taking it and I'm going to do something with it? Not many.
100%?
Zero. But they got the like, and that's what was really important. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm actually going to start to talk to all these people about how serious are we as a fraternity of change? How absolutely seriously are we about making a difference to a lot of these people? So I'm going to give you a case study, and I've got a fair few clients, right? Who actually has ever worked in a bank before? Anyone? Anyone worked in a bank?
Like at a brick and mortar bank?
Yeah. Basically, it's pretty cutthroat, right? They usually get some nice bonuses when they make sales. Now, would you agree salespeople are different to servicing people, service side to sales? Pretty different, right? So I've got a real example here that's just finished in the last couple of weeks, and I'll show you how I did it. So basically, we had a guy who received a phone call from the customer and said, look, I'm interested in a loan. And the guy says, yeah, not a problem, they're in a call centre. How much do you want to borrow? And the guy says, $1 million. $1 million? Not a problem. Why? Because at $1 million, they get $100 bonus, right? So he said, sir, not a problem. This guy's shaking it. There's, sir, not a problem. There's 40 people in this call centre. It's 5.2%, no fees. We can do that. We can hold the rate for you literally within 24 hours. And the guy said, okay, that's fantastic. I'll just go home and check. So he went home, obviously, and checked. But what happens is, when you call back and all those people are on the phone, that phone call gets sent to the servicing side of the business, okay? That's the process, right? It goes to another area. So this young girl, Emma, picked up the phone and said, hello, how are you going? And this guy said, hey, I'm just confirming the details. Now, Emma said, no, that percentage is wrong. It's actually 6 point higher, and there is a fee. And the guy said, you guys have got no idea what you're talking about, bang. So what happened, do you reckon? What do you think actually happened culturally? How do you think it went down? Because what happened was, this guy, let's just say his name was Stephen, rang this customer because he got his details, and the customer said, no, I'm not interested in the loan. I rang somebody and said, who'd you speak to? Boom, as soon as he said Emma, guess what Stephen did? He became, what? A bully. The pressure that this young girl, 21 years old, right, this young girl was under so much pressure that this hero decided to have all these conversations amongst the boys, looking at Emma. She was feeling demoralised, she was feeling pressured, and guess what? She became physically ill because of the pressure. Now, that is the start of mental health, mental challenges. This girl lost her confidence. She didn't go back to work for about a week or so. You know what the challenge is though for me? How do we know this exists? How do you actually know this exists? Because I walk up to the manager and I said, how do you actually know that, we've got a few issues here? But how do you know? Well, I know, I can tell you how and I'll show you how. But how do you know if there are any issues with staff? He goes, George, I haven't got time for this, mate. He goes, I haven't got time. Do you know how many emails I actually do every day? So this leader is not emotionally engaged to care enough about Emma. He doesn't care. He's basically saying, I'm flat out. So is he a cause of it? Is he a supporter of it? He really is, right? He doesn't care, it's too hard. He doesn't want to have the conversation with Emma. He doesn't want to have it. How would you fix a situation like that as a change manager? Because that's what we are. We're pretty much organisational psychologists, because I can't go up to this guy and go, hey, listen, I'm going to give you a Chinese burnout because you've upset that girl. It's going to be on for young and old again. How do you reckon I fixed it? What do you do in that case?
Talk to the human resource department and ask them what kind of policies and procedures they have.
Yeah. So you speak to HR, which I had to, and HR said, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to get them both in the room? I said, yeah, that's not really going to fix it. So let me tell you what I did. It was basically, can you go to the next page for me, please?
Yes, sure.
One after that, one after that, one after that. Okay. Can you see this? This is her survey. So we went from around 65% down to this level here. So she was reaching out, because we're online mentors, because that's our program, right? We can see what's going on. So I have evidence now to suggest there's something wrong from someone who's been disengaged. And the problem is, when you're cheesed off, you're not going to lie. You actually really show how you feel. The way I actually fixed the problem was to not just deal with these percentage scores because I had to. I actually did a test on all the servicing side of the team, so we don't just, stand her out. I wrote down 10 multiple choice questions and said, right, scenario 1, 2, 3, how would you answer it? What's the answers? Then I gave it to the sales teams. What do you reckon the score was from the sales team? So even for compliance purposes, right, you want to know if they, how would they respond? What do you reckon the average score was on the sales side?
80.
70%. What about on the servicing side?
95.
Lower, I think.
Lower, just under 40%. So really, what was a process issue of the root cause of why is the phone being redirected to service? That's what we need to fix in the first place. Because the second piece is, out of selfishness, this guy lost $100. So he decided to actually burn this girl's mindset because of $100, right? So what happens is, I do the test, I grab all the results, I don't even worry about the manager now, I'm thinking I've got to actually create change for this manager. Get them all in the room, hey, we've got a fantastic opportunity to create wonderful change. This is what we're going to do, guys. We're going to teach each other how to become the best of the best to at least get to 90%. I need some volunteers on the sales side. Who's going to be the teacher? So I go, Max, you're it. Come up, buddy. He was the bully. I turned the bully into the teacher. I go, Max, guess what? You're the teacher now. and I'm your mentor. Max has gone, holy crap, what have I got myself into here? You had no choice. You expose the behaviour, and you turn the problem into a positive, and then you actually get him to view the analysis for him to say, the poor things, they've got no idea what they're doing. So now, how do you reckon Max is feeling? Horrible. So change is an art form, guys. It doesn't happen by accident. You can cheese people off just like that. So you've got to be really careful how you position change, because it actually can really impact mental illness. I have seen where, you know, we get called in, you know, this person's no good, Cullen's no good, get rid of him. So then when I've spoken to him one-on-one, I understand what's going on, because in a group, he's never going to open up. But then you go back to the management and you say, well, how often do you spend one-on-ones with your team? You don't. Well, why not? Because if you do it as a group, it might be efficient for you, but how do you know what's in the guy's heart and mind? So we create change differently to a lot of organisations. We use fact. And literally for us, it's about how do we position it with finesse, where we have people feeling great about themselves. This particular client, who's a credit union in Melbourne, has a happy girl now. She got an apology, and we actually developed a bully into a teacher, and we matured him into a leader. What do you reckon the manager did? What do you think the outcome was for the manager? Do you reckon it was a positive outcome or negative outcome?
You get more emails?
Yeah.
Do you know what? He started to challenge why he answered so many emails. He really started to think differently about his role as a leader. And, you know, he started to have conversations to me about, I can now see your point. So sometimes, guys, and being young entrepreneurs, I'm talking to you, put your people in a position where the penny drops, because sometimes people just don't get it. So you've got to manufacture the environment for people to get it, to go through. Do you know what I mean?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions leaders have is they want to be very efficient. But when it comes to human relationships, you cannot be efficient. You can only be efficient in tasks, not human relationships. That manager has failed to understand that basic principle.
Yeah. You know, and with this particular assessment here, we do this at least monthly. Every staff member completes it. Do you guys do anything like this today at work? At all? Because what we're really doing is we're not doing it as a staff survey. We're doing it as a way of staff to self-reflect, so they can be taught, do I actually have gaps? Should I own my own development? It takes a lot of pressure off you guys as leaders, right? Because if staff can actually see that they've got areas for improvement, they will want to progress. And the whole art form of change is to enable progress to systematically and sustainably occur without needing to push it.
Can I ask a question about that? So I've been involved in other kinds of surveys, usually like once a year or something like that. But one of the sets of people that develops is well, I gave you my answers, what are you going to do about it? Mentality. And then they get more disenfranchised because they expect all of their problems to be solved because they put ones and twos on there. So how do you
so this here is their own. It's illogical to talk goals at the workplace. It's actually even illogical as people, because I can say, mate, have you got goals? Yeah. Show me your goals. Where are they? Write them down. Show me now. Where are they? And he's going, oh shit, I'm under pressure. Where are your goals? Tell me where your goals are. How could you have a culture with no goals program? It's illogical. So, you know, the basics of basic goal setting, we don't do very well in corporate America, let alone corporate Australia. I can tell you now, we just don't do it. So this here is not a survey, it's a self-reflective tool for them. It's about how they feel. And then they will actually determine what particular area they would like assistance with, and then us as mentors can help them. So we have two models. We can actually have this platform built under a hierarchy so the manager can see all the scores. Because I can tell you now, 90% of management, 90% minimum, every manager that I speak to needs help with emotionally connecting with staff. This tool enables them to read, and in their brains going, okay, I know how to connect. So they need that. So we've had to actually address over the last 5 years, how do I address all this cultural toxicity that's in the kitchen, in the hallways, you know, because I was an executive manager in the National Bank. I had 3,500 people underneath me. And do you know what's really sad? Because I have left over 10 years now. Some of my general managers now still they're waiting for a package. Imagine being there for 10 years just hoping for a package to get a redundancy. It's like, what are we doing? But that's their culture. But wouldn't you hang your head in shame if your staff were feeling like that, my man, in your business? You would, right?
Yeah.
And that's not going to happen in your business because you're emotionally connected.
Yeah.
So management need tools, but also staff need tools to drive that up. So John's going to talk about a different form because he lives and breathes mental illness and mental health in a different space. But can I just show you in the next page? Just go back one for me. If you can go back one.
I think my computer is stuck.
Oh, really? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Stay here. I don't want to put you under pressure.
This?
See this percentage score here? I just met a lady who had more front than Macy's. She was a confident woman. Really shaking the hand, bang. I thought, oh, this woman's really confident. I got her to do her assessment because she asked to be mentored. That's her score, 40%. So how would you know how someone's feeling? Because this doesn't tell you, right? You've got to understand this.
We all have personas.
Yeah, but it helps when you're looking at growing and skilling people. You've got to have some form of understanding, you know, what's going on, guys, right? Because I can tell you one little thing could really cheese someone off if you don't know how they're feeling for that week. Yeah? Yeah, my man?
I would say setting the right expectations is really important from the beginning. Building that relationship with the employer, client, person, so that it can be an open dialogue, open feedback system.
Yeah.
So that person can be approachable, I guess, towards a manager or a supervisor or co-worker. Because it all comes down to communication.
Spot on. Spot on.
You deal with the fact that most managers are going to look at the relationship with their employees as a work relationship and not their therapist.
How do I deal with that?
Yeah.
It's easy because I can prove mathematically that they're only probably getting about $25,000 worth of value. And if they're not meeting their KPIs, they're going, why aren't you meeting your KPIs? Why aren't you meeting your KPIs? I'll tell you why you're not meeting KPIs. They don't give a shit. They don't care. You have to emotionally engage with people so they're on the cause with you, right? Would you agree? Who in this room could honestly think that you could give more if you felt better about yourself or your peers? Could you give more? You could, right? That's just logic. That's logic. So to me, it's about the level of care. And if you go to the next page for me, please, what I really want to do is, once the person's, I'll just go back one. See here, I can tick and see what people are thinking and achieving. That is evidence of someone progressing. So if someone's done their assessment and they're thinking about, I'm actually going to improve my confidence. And the goal is I'm actually going to present like this. Or I'm going to lose weight. That's the intent, right? The goal was to lose my first pound. Or, you know, whatever the project is. But, you know, if it's written down, you've got a higher probability of someone actually committing to doing something. And measurement is actually a very good thing. But don't use measurement as a weapon. Use measurement as a form of developing someone's belief system. Because practitioners who are worried about mental health and are worried about that sort of trait, all they're trying to do is create a superior belief system. So if you can incrementally build this lady up every week and get her belief up, her skills up, who wins? You guys as owners of the business, right? If you just hire somebody and expect them to get from here because, what, they just answered a job interview and they got the job, you may not really get the best out of them. But the most reward, I can tell you, is seeing someone growing week to week. Absolutely growing week to week. And on the next page, and then I'll get off this stage, is I'll show you how we track it. This is a live client, 650 staff, 393 people haven't done their assessment survey. You know the star rating yet? 73 people have already done their survey and they've rated less than 50%. 50% wellness. That's what we call it. 105 people have rated between 50 and 75%. 85 people have rated 76 to 99, and then we've got some more 4 smarty pants who thought they would just do 5 stars, so we'll get them. But can you see, that's a pretty high number, right? So if I had this company, I'd be really embarrassed. I'd be concerned. that number exists. To have people, 73 employees, feeling that way. So what it does for us as a change group, it enables us to have better quality conversations with leaders. And it says, you know, for us it's easy to say, what are we going to do about it? I can ask an open-ended question and go, what are we going to do about it? And you hope to God this guy's got an answer, right? Because then you've got to influence the answer. But fact always enables you to change. So that number there, as it starts to drip feed down, I'm thinking this is going to be about 150 people who are going to be less, 150 people at an average of $50,000 engaged less than 50%. So our business is about eliminating intellectual waste. This is evidence of intellectual waste. And if you've got that number there and you can measure it, people change just like that. If you can't measure it, you haven't got a platform like it, you can't action it. So just consider, as you're growing your businesses, guys, because I met you before, you're growing your businesses, just make sure you've got measurements in place. Invest in your people. Get out of the way and let them do what they need to do. You just steer the ship, you know, because people are very, very smart and capable.
I agree with everything you said, but if you look at American business, everything is transient. People switch companies. It's not like India, where I come from. You know, people go to a company and they work for a very long time. So American managers, like, do I spend money to educate them, or what if they leave? So they have to make an assessment on what are the pros and cons. So that's the problem. If we know that the employee can stick around, then you can put in a lot of time, effort, money, but we don't know. We can't control people in America.
One of the reasons they leave is because they're unhappy. I speak personally.
They're unhappy, right?
Yeah, so if you can, like,
stop it.
Right, then, I mean, some of it you can't stop because subject related rather than people related. But if you can make them happier as people, they're less likely to leave and you don't have to retrain someone else.
To me, I would have thought that would be my #1 priority. If your people aren't happy, there's a problem.
The problem is there isn't any engagement. The manager is not fully engaged with the employee. And that's where the problem is. Because people don't leave for money, they leave because they don't feel valued. And they don't feel valued because somebody doesn't care about them enough. And that's the major problem that we have.
Very good.
So whose job, if we're the leaders of industry, whose job is it to make that decision around what our culture is going to look like in our company? Who promotes and identifies the values that make up that sub-foundation of culture that we are? So it's the values and principles that we bring in ethics to the workforce that, or to our work. So whose role is that? Is that mine? And do I have?
Stick with human resources.
Human resources in Australia, because it's my first day here, it's generally now become very administrative. You know, the poor things haven't got the time to provide advice. They're there in a crisis when something goes wrong. Managers are too busy. So with managers, I can literally change them by counting how many emails they have a day, and I ask them what the cost is, and they say, no, emails don't cost any money. I say, sure they do. So how long do you spend an email? 3 minutes. Well, 3 minutes at $30 an hour costs money. So then I say to them, how many emails you have? Oh, about 200 a day. And they pump it up, of course, because they want to make themselves look busy. So 200 emails in 3 minutes, that's 600 minutes. What time do you get into work and what time do you go home, man? Because that's not stacking up. So it's like 600 minutes. So really what you're telling me is you're answering emails, you're not spending one minute on your staff members. And they go, yeah, but that's not really, they don't finish the sentence. Do you know how common that is, guys? It is so common. So part of change management or creating a culture of strength is to really know how to influence change, not push it, pull it. So Johnny plays in a space where really it's a fascinating space, because what's happened is these people have already been hurt, they've been mistreated. You know what John's job is? To build them back up again as people. So I'm going to throw over to you, John. And are there any questions for me?
I would just like to make a comment about what Dr. Cal said about Americans staying at their job. My mother was at one of her schools for 35 years, the same school as a teacher. My uncle was with a major company for 40 years. And his brother was at, a veterinarian was at a major institution for close to 35 years, and National Institutes of Health for about 15 years. So those people are dying right now in the 80s. What has happened is that a lot of corporations have been greedy, and then we don't feel that everybody growing up, when you took a job, everybody was in that job until they died or retired. So sadly, you know, it was like the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and early 80s mentality. It would be nice to get back to that area, but if everybody's looking to make a profit like the managers, the employees don't feel valued and feel pushed and not respected and they're not rewarded, recognized for their financial contributions.
And you know what, that's pretty much our whole purpose as a business, is to raise the awareness level to managers about the importance of investing back into staff, because they've lost it. They're not intentionally doing it, they've lost it. And when you see some form of depression, anxiety, mental health, bullying, all that sort of stuff, they don't know how to deal with it. They would rather hope it goes away. So management, they work hard. They work hard, but they're not trained in how to actually deal in this space. And you'll find when you go into large organisations, very rarely is HR the old HR, where they were heavily involved in, you know, developing people. So we're finding that there is a transition, but the younger millennials coming through, you know, say less than 25 years old, they're bouncing, they're kangaroos. They're going from job to job. They're not hanging at all. So unless, you know, you could choose me off and I'm out of here. Because you know what, mum and dad are going to give me money anyway. So I'm out of here. So I think the ones who are going to win in the future, you have to have a good product because customers want to buy it, right? But I can tell you now, your culture will outweigh anything. Your culture drives everything. Profit, people, innovation, creativity, it drives everything. If you want to attract great staff, guess what? Staff want to go to great companies. They don't want to go to companies that earn top money and then burn you out in a year, right? So that's a tip, boys. Don't stress your boys, you know, your girls out too much. Just make them grow. And as they're growing, guess what? They're feeling progress. And that's what we need, is progress. If people don't progress, they feel stale. That's the key. You know, that's the key. So it's actually about getting people really going.
So, what trends are you seeing? I mean, is it just the US that you're seeing a different trend versus the other countries?
No, it's simple. You know, the mindset's shortening. You know, when you're going through Instagram, Facebook, your attention span, you're killing your own attention span because of this. So I'm talking to this bloke, he's already bored in 30 seconds because I haven't flicked over to the next page. So I go, Max, listen to me, man. Stop, Max. That's the mindset we're dealing with because of this. That's the whole new wave, right, coming through. So I could have the best product, but they want it fixed today. No one wants to work hard to get a long-term outcome. It's all about today. So if I said, guess what, Max, you know, you've got to use my product, man, because tomorrow you're going to increase your productivity by 120%. Max is going to buy it. Max is going to buy it. But if I say to Max, you know what, Max, I'm going to give you the ability to become the best leader possible. And I'm going to be your online mentor. And I'm going to bust your ass to make sure that you actually look after your people. I'm going to make you the best leader possible. How long is that going to take? Well, Max, it's going to take 3 months. Oh, 3 months too long.
I think that
they're the sort of trends, right? People are impulse. Everything's about today. So in a lot of cases, management have got to create a facade that we can give them something today. So what we do, we promise something, and guess what? Staff don't get it. Then that sends it backwards. Or they'll bring on a motivational speaker and give them some belief, and then they go back to their seats and they do nothing with the information. And I see it all the time.
I think the problem to solve that is to reduce the goals to smaller goals so that they can get the...
Little ones.
Yeah.
Little ones. Every week, guys, you know what? Self-reflect. Set one plan for yourself and set a goal. That's it. One a week. If you do that, you've achieved 50 every year. Doesn't matter what it is, but just do it. That's the way we live in our culture. One thing per week. Now, I've asked people to do 4 a month, and you don't get that. If you ask for 1, you'll get 4.
Yeah.
So people need 2 things. One is logic. Why should I change? Right. 2, they need to be pinned down to change. Measurement has to be involved somewhere. But 3, there's got to be someone who's more passionate about them than they are themselves. So the role of the leader and the mentor is critical.
And also having a community.
Is on the same planet, right? So Johnny deals with a community that's completely disengaged. So I'm not going to, John, I'm going to throw over to you. And thank you guys for my time.
Yeah. So what I did in racking my brain to think about what to present, and I thought I would take a step back and look at what mine said is constructed from. It's going to be a teeny bit academic, and I hope not to bore you to sleep. But Matt?
Yes.
That is.
So there you have the PowerPoint.
Yep. Yes. There you go. Shaping mindset. Dun, dun, dun. We don't have sound effects there. So by age 7, people get 80,000 no's and only 7,000 yeses. Mindset shaping. So in our daily life, we process about 60,000 thoughts. How many of them are positive? And then this is an interesting statistic I heard last night. Thank you, Dimitri. So if you're looking for a source.
Dimitripedia, we call it.
Dimitripedia. So 90% of our day-to-day thoughts are the same day after day. So what's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing again. Doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result.
So how do we have mindset change if 95% of our thoughts are repeated? One of the biggest areas that shape mindset is something called the human experience. Has anyone had a human experience?
I think I might have once or so.
A couple of times? So the
I think
language...
I bought one online once.
You did? The language is a little bit strange. It's new language in the mental health field, human experience language. But the intention is to move away from diagnostic language and come into a place where we can communicate as people. So if George is to come to me and say, John, I'm really depressed. Well, I don't have any clinical tools to help him. I have clinical training. I'm a friend. What am I going to do? Right? And so I just simply ask the question, so what happened? What was your experience? And then from that, you can say, my cat got run over. Although he was happy, I think, the other day. So our human experience comes in our rearing. How is it that we become self-reliant? And what impedes that in our rearing? The cultural messages. We talk about culture. We get these cultural messages. By the time we're 7, we get, how many? 80,000 cultural messages that are negative. You can't do that. You can't. Personal identity comes in that process. And so, also, yes?
Just before asking questions,
go right ahead.
When you're talking about human experience and rearing, I think it's a cultural component. Because I come from India, which is a very family-oriented, interdependent society. And in America, it's totally self-reliant and just don't bother anybody, do everything on your own.
It's a myth.
That's what I realized once I started getting into business, because it's all interrelated.
So I separated them intentionally because I think there is good rearing, and I think that there is rearing that's harmful. And I think that impacts our ability to be able to become self-reliant as we move and grow. And that's what a lot of the research is, hard research in mental health community, that's talking about the role of mental health conditions as growing out of human experiences. So what gets diagnosed as depression or schizophrenia come from a traumatic event, an event that the person experienced early in life.
Can I just make a note? I just want to answer something of yours. I'm new in the country. One thing though that I can tell you about America and Americans, I wish we had only 10% of the passion and pride that you guys have for your flag and your troops and your country. Because
I'm not American, so
yeah, but I can tell you now, this is a very proud country,
yeah.
and it's a country that's built on rich history, right? The level of academia in terms of the way they're developing their kids in terms of history to understand that in richness, we don't have that in Australia. So when you're talking about culture, I'm just talking about it at a macro level. This is a phenomenal country in terms of the way the government has, like, I've never seen so many flags outside houses. Like, we just don't get that. Even in Australia Day, we don't. So there are some unbelievable positives here. But when you're talking about culture, about an individual here, I just want to raise about the country. If we just had 10% of the passion that Americans have, we'd be laughing in Australia. Absolutely laughing. And you guys should be really proud of that.
I will be when I get my citizenship.
So we found out that in mental health recovery, all growth is active. So if folks are stagnant or hanging out or they're goalless, their mental health doesn't improve. It's not, the pill doesn't help. It may alleviate some symptoms, and then I think in conjunction with treatment, therapy and other things, people can start moving in that direction. But my experience is that when folks are, and this is a cultural paradigm, but when people are diagnosed with an illness, they're told, hey, you can't work. So it's sad to find out who is the start of, who was at the head of this mindset stuff. It was Dr. Carol Dweck. She's now at Stanford University. She's a researcher. And she worked with children in classrooms and found some really interesting things about them. But ultimately, she looked at the success, right, and failures in the classroom. It came down to two different things here in mindset. The fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And, and she talked about the challenges and how people with the two different mindsets approach them. So a person with a fixed mindset would avoid a challenge. A person with a growth mindset may embrace challenges. So I mean, and so you see the difference between the two as we don't have to necessarily read all of them here for you, but the one of the largest pieces here is that success, right? Feel threatened by the success of others, or find lessons in and inspiration from the success of others. And I want to share a really quick fixed mindset story that I experienced on Wednesday on my way to work. So I drive from Worcester to Quincy daily, and I have a choice to take 495 up or head out in the Pike. I come up to 495, and there's a mile-long traffic jam. There's cars piled up a mile away from the exit. And I got in line for a second, and I sat there, and I said, I'm in a mile-long line of traffic, and the other lanes are moving. What am I doing? Pop down to the lane. I tell my children, we are not ducks. Ducks line up. People shouldn't. So I popped out of the line and went up and realized, oh yeah, I forgot. We have 2 lanes to get off the highway. There was no one in the second lane. There was no one in the second lane. I couldn't understand it. So I went, and I passed a mile of cars. Fixed mindset, growth mindset. I accepted the challenge.
Is this kind of metaphorically, can you say, is this divided on the left brain versus the right brain kind of thing?
No, it's interpretation of events. It's how people interpret their own success or failure, how they interpret challenges. So a person with a fixed mindset interprets challenges in a way that's self-defeating. They're a performer. They do things to perform and to get results. That's why one of the things that Dweck found out is that you don't praise performance. If you praise performance and intelligence, find that it's just not working. If we praise progress and effort, the things that, in people who make challenges, it creates this. She taught these second graders about neuroplasticity, in that if they challenge themselves with a math problem, they can actually grow a neuron. And it really excited them, that, oh, I can grow a neuron? And they rose above all kinds of challenges and grew and got into this effort mindset. So it's a growth mindset, and that's mirrored by some physiology. Very interesting idea. So back to change agents. So if we understand that those ideas about the mindset, that there are fixed mindsets and that there is a growth mindset, how do we help people assess that? What are the tools that we use to identify areas for growth, identify patterns of thought? Is it a fixed thought pattern? Is it a growth thought pattern? What do we do to monitor progress or measure and praise that effort? And I'm going to show you a personal, go ahead.
This all sounds good, but I mean, before that we need to look at, are we going to take a carrot approach or a stick approach for change?
What do you think works best?
I mean, obviously carrot approach, but it's a long process.
And it's rewarded richly. Okay. So what I'm showing you is, and I have copies for folks. This is a SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration model for a life space. Each one of these areas represents a dimension of our wellness, right? And so this enabled us in our world. I just met George recently, so I even had eye goals at work. We developed a tool using this 8 dimensions of wellness. And so on them, as you see, there's an intellectual capacity, there's social, emotional, environmental, financial, physical, occupational, and spiritual. All parts of the human and human experience, right? So we decided, like, heck, we might be able to draw a web analysis with this if we just make some lines on the paper and ask people to graph where they feel they are from low to high. I'm going to share a personal one. I'm going to share 2 of them. Just to kind of look at the assessment. So the idea is, this is me in 2014. I reconstructed it for the PowerPoint demonstration. And if I look at that, we've heard about people being well-rounded, right? Great metaphor. We're well-rounded. Are there areas of my life that are flat tire that I need to work on and make better? May 2014, I weighed 205 pounds, right? My emotional connection to work and stress level was high because I rated that low. My environmental cues, good health, as a stimulating environment. I don't think that I didn't feel at that time that I was in the best place. Work, although it was pretty satisfying, it was probably one of the higher points on that chart. Physical. A year before this, I was in the hospital for a week with a lung condition, and took 6.5 months to kind of come back to work on a regular basis. So I decided that in May of 2014, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I needed to make a change. I needed to do something about my life. I had to. So if I'm, again, doing the same thing over and over, expecting to be different, it's not going to work. So I started running. I changed my diet. So with fitness, with diet, adding healthy foods to my diet, I lost 55 pounds in the course of a year. I look at the chart here. These are not inflated for your entertainment. This is real life stuff. There's improvement. So
I personally don't buy the concept of well-roundedness because it's a trade-off in life. You give up something for something else. Maybe not.
Why?
Yeah, if you want to be successful, you got to be working all the time.
If you balance everything out, sometimes people can be so successful in one area, it overflows into other areas. And the need to drive and to push, sometimes you can be very successful and not work as many hours. In other words, quality versus quantity. Some things you can roll out of bed half awake and give you the best in the world, versus someone else could take 5 hours and they can't do what you do in 15 minutes half awake. Because the quality, you're just so good at something.
Maybe they're smart.
Maybe they're
very
smart, talented, resources. So as you balance out, you can actually become more productive with less effort. Effort meaning time effort.
If you're going to lead people
Yeah.
in any way, shape or form, you have to be a very well-balanced, consistent leader, because the people need someone to look up to. If you're going to be driven by money, they're going to be walking out of the door very quickly. They can see straight through it. So being well-rounded to me is just having some nice balance about yourself, being comfortable in your own skin, and having a conscious effort that you're wanting to improve week to week. I've worked with clients who could not get out of bed pre-1 o'clock in the afternoon, right? And I've got a number of them that could not brush their teeth in the morning. Their goal from me was to get them to brush their teeth. I've mentored Australia's Next Top Wanted, Australia's Most Wanted. 3 times he was on the list. He spent 2.5 years in solitary confinement. Do you know how well-rounded he was? Because his whole mind was focusing on what it was going to be like when he was out of jail. He was in a room literally 2 by 2 meters underground. So, you know, it's not about leadership in business. It's about how you actually think of yourself as a whole, as a human being. We as people need to contribute to other people, you know? And it's funny because if you don't do this test on yourself, how do you know what improvements you have? Do you know what I mean? Do you guys think in the last 12 months you've grown like John has? Does anyone feel like you've grown in the last 12 months? Because, like, I don't know, how much weight have you lost or what? You've lost
55 pounds.
Right, that's a lot, right? That's a pretty good achievement.
And I didn't eat the cookies, by the way.
I noticed that today. I kept on eating. But that's a pretty good achievement. To me, you know, would you rather lose 55 pounds or earn $80,000? I'd rather lose 55 pounds because it's going to give me an extra 10 years of my life. You know, it's not always about money, guys. It's about, you know, your health. He's extended his life 10 years.
However, in this process, as I changed my mindset, my attitude, and my spirit, I was able to approach my boss and say, hey, look, I'm back in the game. And I've been back in the game for a while. I haven't had a raise in a while. What are we going to do about that? And I got it. I actually got it. It's amazing.
Interesting.
Because I asked.
Yes.
I just wanted to make a point against Cal's point.
Sure.
I think this is very subjective. So
Yeah, exactly.
It's not something that's, you know, you can put on a scale and say
Yeah.
this is the result. So it's what's in your head, and that goes back to your point, George, which says that, you know, if you as a leader are not rounded, if you're not thinking right, it's going to reflect in your, you know, and show up in your team.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
So I have a point which is going to be really different from everybody's point. I work in a very in a world where everybody is a perfectionist. There are no mistakes. No mistakes with temper, no mistakes with work, and no mistakes with looks. Everything is good. So the thing is that if you are, I think it's very important to be a well-rounded person. It's very important to make good decisions. So if you can make your decision, so when the company asks you, why did you make your decision, and there's a logic behind it, I think doing a lot of work never pays well. Doing good work pays well. So the decision came out of some earlier thought that was made, right? And when you have those thoughts, if you're in a good emotional state, if you're healthy, if you're happy, if you're spiritual, if you're socially happy, if you're intellectual, physically good, you will make a good decision. And if you make a good decision, the company will keep you. So I think it's better to be rounded. I believe in this map, basically.
Yeah.
And the companies that don't believe in this map, you will notice they have a management change every 5 months or 6 months. So it will show up in the productivity of the company. And you know, Boston is such a small community, we get to know, don't go for that company. So ultimately, because the turnover is so much, it comes back to 0.
Yeah.
So what I mean is that I really believe in the chart. So that's my explanation.
Good on you.
I don't know very many people, and I've worked on hiring folks, and I've worked as an employee. I know for myself that unless I'm happy and go to work, I'm not going to be happy at work. Right? So I have to do the work, and I have to make the effort. This took effort. I found a lot of excitement and energy from working on these areas of my life and having those goals. There's a gentleman, Jeff Olson. he talked about the slight edge. Has anyone heard that?
Yeah.
Or, and the slight edge is about the compound effect. So if we do things, and we're talking about mental wellness, we're talking about wellness. If I do things that add to my wellness every day, my wellness will grow in a compounded way. If I stop and eat cookies and sit on the couch, and that first slide was what happened as a result of that. 205 pounds was really 210, but that was a couple months before, so I left it out. So, you know, I was fat and sick and dying, and I didn't want to be there. So I had to make the effort and make the choice. And so mindset played a part in all of that, because I'm standing at the door with my running shoes at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's under 50 degrees. You know, which way do we go? So it took for me holding a really solid, I think I lost my frickiness.
Do you guys have many people at work who are just naturally down? Or is it usually it's on the up? You do have people who are down?
Yeah.
And are they senior people too, or are they peers?
I would say a mix of both.
Mix of both? And how does that fit, sort of create a vibe at work?
Yeah, down.
Down, right?
Yeah, down.
And does anyone know why they're down?
A lot of it is because they spend so much time at work. I think it's like what you said, the quality over quantity. Like having that balance, because you could tell, you know, the difference between people that, I don't know, whether they run outside, go to the gym, whatever it is, eat healthy, and the people that just go to work, go home, and see it over and over. There's a difference.
Yeah, and it's sometimes difficult to have the conversations with these types of people as to why they're down, but you'll find it's not even work related.
Yeah,
a lot of it's not work related. So if you actually solve the problem, you'll be fine. We had a lady in one of the largest insurance companies in Australia who literally ran this place. She was just a miserable person, really tough. Everyone was scared of her, and I was teaching people how to process map. And she took this process mapping tool and designed it for an autistic child. Step 1, get out of bed. Step 2, brush your teeth. Step 3, she took my A3 sheet, wrote it down. The next day she came in and she gave me this big hug and kiss in front of everybody. It was like, oh, it's been since high school I've had that. That's fantastic. And I have to tell you, she loved it because she opened up and said to me that her biggest problem was her autistic child who gave her hell every morning. Could not get this kid ready to go to school. So she process mapped what the morning was like. And she became happy. And everyone thought, holy crap, if we knew that, we would have got her a process tool a long time ago. But she was like that for over 12 months. And it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. True story.
And so in our work, one of the things that's interesting is as we do qualitative evaluation of who we see at the recovery learning community, one of the things that shows up is there are a lot of occupational groups that there are a number of people in. I have, in a small community, 5 nurses. That's not by accident, right? We look at the workplace, and we understand the culture of nursing on a floor in America today. Like, you know, how many more of those nurses are burning out, crying, and not having their needs met, or not having enough support to make it work? I'm going to wrap up with a couple slides, and this is a really great one that I love. What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become achieving your goals. And for me, I said it before, I had a really clear, sharp mental image when I was running of, you know, what would it be really nice to look like? What would be nice to look like? And so, I don't know, I picked and it's ironic here, he says, so what can you do? What can you do? What are we going to choose to be like? I know that for me, this was a really important identity because I don't know, just had this childhood connection to it, right? And it made me feel good, and you know, standing there muscular and all that. Well, he's, you know, close, I'm getting there. But that image kept me running when I was running on the road and it was a dead skunk. It kept me running when I didn't want to do it.
So is this your motivation? This image was your motivation?
One of them, right? So it's about mental hardening. I learned a lot on the road running. I learned that the game is, what is that number that Yogi Berra uses? It's 10% mental. No, I'm sorry.
99% inspiration, 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration.
Edison. Yogi Berra used another statistic. I think he said it was the game of baseball is 30% physical and 90% mental. And I agree. And so I'm going to close with Thoreau as well. It's work. You know, a single footstep will not make a path on the earth. So as a single thought will not make a pathway in the mind. Remember the neurotransmitters and the brain plasticity. So to make a deep physical path, we walk again and again. To make a deep mental path, we must think over and over the kind of thoughts we wish to dominate our lives. So that's what I got on mindset, and I want to thank you. Questions, thoughts, comments?
John, you had a great story about why you don't have a suit today.
Oh, I don't have a suit today because I don't fit in it.
Does anyone have children?
Yeah.
Any got young ones?
6 and 3. Yeah,
Okay, Phil, do you want to share with the team the study that we're doing at the moment with the?
Sure. So actually, you might have just got an email. I'm going to talk about the stick and the carrot a little bit too. But so we have a change manager in our organization who has literally taken a person and over about a month and a half now has had that person set a plan, assess themselves, set a plan every single week, and then achieve a goal. This person has achieved over 20 goals. This person is 5 years old. 5 years old. All right, that achieved the goals. The young lady is her nanny. And she's a change manager for somebody at such a young age. Before the age of maybe 7, 8, 10 years old, a young person doesn't have the ability to reason or think, right? They can't say, well, I don't believe that, or you know, I don't want to do that, because they don't even know why. They don't really think. They just take the information in like you do, right? That's how you learn your name, that's how you learn the alphabet, that's how you learn all the things that you do wrong, that's how you learn all the things that you do right, because somebody impressed an idea upon you. So it's a perfect time for us as adults to help children engage in the planning process, the assessment process, the goal setting process, because this little girl doesn't know that, and she doesn't even think about it. She goes, okay, let's do it. And she's accomplishing goals every week because we're creating a mindset before the mindset's been created by an adult, right, who maybe doesn't set goals. Because most people don't set goals, so most parents didn't set goals because, yeah, so they didn't set goals, we don't set goals, and we're just kind of conditioned by our parents and our grandparents or our teachers that may not have been given us the tools that we need, the proper life skills that we need to be successful. And it's not their fault either, right? It isn't their fault because maybe their parents or their grandparents didn't give them the right tools, because you know, our conditioning is generational, right? It gets passed down from generation to generation. The way we think about money, politics, religion, our relationships, all these things are all passed on to us, and they become our beliefs. Whether we really believe them or not, they become our beliefs. And in order to alter that or to change that, we need to get a hold of what's going on in here, change what we think through constant repetition of a new idea. You had a question?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little worried about giving a 5-year-old kid 20 tasks and 20 goals, because that is the time where they're creative. When you give them tasks, you lose the creativity.
We didn't give them the goals. These are her goals. They could be, I want to paint a picture. I want to cook something. There's so many of them, but there's so many. These are her goals. We didn't give them the goals. We didn't give her the goals. The nanny said, what would you like to accomplish this week? What would you like to do this week? And some of them were things like, I want to do something nice for my parents, which would be clean my room. So this is the child developing goals. Just developing a mindset of having goals, getting into the habit. So when they grow up and they mature into adults and they're working in the workforce, or they start their own company, they actually set goals, have a plan, assess themselves. Most people never take a look at themselves. The assessment that George showed up here earlier, how many people in this room actually once a week, once a month even, or every night, because I like to look at it every night, say, how did I do today? In the area of connecting with my employees, in the area of being a good spouse or parent or friend, or in the area of success or work. How many times do we look at ourselves and say, on a scale of 1 to 5 stars, right? How did I do today? And not to punish yourself, because when I look at it, if I assess myself and I say today that I wasn't fully engaged with my people, and I say to myself, I got a 1 star here today, I don't beat myself up over it. You know what I do? Tomorrow I'm going to crush it. Tomorrow is going to be 5 stars, 6 if I can make that happen on iGoals, right? That's my goal. And so self-assessment is a positive thing, not a punishing thing. But yes?
So where does attitude fit into all of this?
Attitude is a composite of your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. That's what culture is too, right? How people think, feel, and act. That's how our culture is. So if you want people to change, if you want change in culture or personal change, you have to change the way that you think so that you feel different or have different belief systems, and therefore those beliefs drive your actions, and your actions are what produce the results that you get. So when we're talking about personal change, the carrot and the stick that Cal mentioned earlier, to me I thought, carrot or the stick to motivate people? Neither. Neither. Because the carrot and the stick will motivate somebody to do something temporarily because it's an external motivation, not an internal motivation. In other words, if you have children and they're in school, or when you were a child, you were in school, and they're not doing very well in school, what do we do as a parent to get them to do better? Yeah, we punish them, right? We punish them. We say, hey, until you improve your grades, you can't play with your friends, or you can't use Xbox. And what happens? The child's grades do what? They go up. No, they actually go up. Because they're only focused on that. So they're in their class, they're in their room, and they're studying, and they're getting better because they are motivated to get back out with their friends so they do better in school. Okay? What ends up happening, though, once they're out with their friends now and they're doing better, they're playing with their Xbox, what happens to the grades again? They go back down. Because we externally motivated them, and that is a behavioral change that happens temporarily. So the carrot and the stick are temporary pain and pleasure, are temporary motivators to affect a change, behavioral change. If you want to affect change on an ongoing basis sustainably, the only way to do that is to change environment and experiences. In other words, really get people thinking differently about what it's like to work here, or work for me, or be with me. Changing the experience so that their thinking changes, therefore the belief changes. And when the belief changes, that drives behavior, and the behavior turns those results into positive versus negative. It's what we think that causes the behavioral change, not the external motivation, but most people focus on the results. So if you're looking at this as far as mindset, and John was explaining it perfectly, if you look at mindset and how the mind actually works or functions, it's actually not that difficult. It's pretty simple to understand. So the mind is split up into 2 parts, right? We have the conscious mind, we have the subconscious mind. And what happens is our environment brings in information into the conscious mind. Think about growing up, right? All that information that was coming in from your parents and school and all that stuff came into your conscious mind. And you have an ability right here at the conscious level to think about this and reason with it once you were a certain age. Before a certain age of 10, before the age of reason, you couldn't. It just went into your subconscious mind and it became your beliefs, right? So if your parents had a strong belief about something, religion or politics, you didn't have a conscious faculty developed. It came right into your subconscious mind. It became your belief. And you grow up and you don't know why you're a Republican or Democrat or liberal. You don't know why. You just are. You never even thought about it, but you are. And then some people change, but most don't, right? It's like people that are on welfare, right, could be 3rd, 4th, 5th generation. Why is that? Because that's all they knew. That became their belief system. That's my self-worth. So here at the subconscious level is where we have our beliefs. So information comes in, we think about it, we become obsessed with it, or we hear it over and over again, and it becomes our belief system. The belief drives our behavior. And in the body moves into action, based on the behavior from the beliefs, and that's how we get our results. The problem with most people is they're focused on the results. So if you have a corporate culture that's negative, and people are saying this is the way it is here, and that's why we're saying all these, you know all the companies in Boston, right? Which ones are negative and which ones are positive, right? Yeah. That's the consensus or the belief. That's even if a manager comes in and tries to change the negative experience, everyone outside thinks that that's a negative company. And over time, it takes a lot of time to change that. So what ends up happening is the experiences that the manager can create will eventually change the belief of the people that this is a positive environment, it's a place for growth. And because of the experiences changing and the belief begins to change, the behavior changes, the action changes, the results change. So if we want sustainable change with an organization, the carrot and the stick might work temporarily, but it's about getting change leaders and change managers to change what's going on in here. So if I'm in a company and I'm trying to get people to believe that this company is a company for growth, personal growth, professional growth, and an environment of engaging with employees, caring about them, sharing about the value that they bring, and I consistently say this to people, and I get my management team to say this to people and say, hey, you know, we care about you, we value what you do, what you bring to the table, we're changing lives with our company. And that's the message over and over again. Eventually that becomes the belief. And then the belief moves to your behavior, and your behavior creates the results. Yes, sir?
I know the bombardment of that may create that kind of effect, but it can also create the other way, like the resistance. I mean, they gradually get sick and tired of that.
I'll give you an example. If this is a personal example, it took me a year. I went into a company, I had a 1-year contract to change morale, raise morale, right? Well, morale starts from the top really and trickles down, but they always think you can raise morale. So I went in and we started with this. Now this was a toxic environment, a very toxic environment, and they were doing the stick approach. Well, I went in there and all I started to do is get more positive, talk about what the values that these people bring, engage with people, really love on them, right? And try to get the managers around me to do the same thing. You were right, lots of resistance. I remember one of my first meetings, I'm trying to praise a group of people. There were 2 or 3 people that did something amazing. There were 40 people standing in front of me. I used their names and I started to clap. And nobody clapped. I'm like, okay. Next meeting, same thing. I started to clap. Finally, I got a few people to, you know, clap. Within a few months, I also would have to say, hey, Cal did an outstanding job. Everyone's like, yeah, Cal. The whole place was clapping because of consistency. Now, here's the thing. A lot of those people were new. A lot of those people were new. Some people left. Those people that wanted to be in a toxic environment, that's their conditioning, they're just negative, they ended up leaving. But we attracted positive people, right? So the culture for it to shift, some people had to go, unfortunately. We didn't ask them to leave, but they're like, no, I'm not going to do this, and they left. Because, you know, like attracts like. So over time, not everybody, but a few negative people did leave the organization, and that caused a cultural shift, and eventually the belief was, this is a great place to work. And guess what? It became a great place to work because people were believing that. So their actions were in harmony with that.
How hard is it for you guys to stand out in front of your employers as positive people today? Because I don't think it'd be really hard at all to evidence positivity and to really stand out. Is it really hard?
I think it depends on the company and depends on what the rest of the management team is doing. So I've been in both situations where it is very easy because it comes from the top down and it trickles through the organization. But I've also been in situations where I wanted to do something more positive or you know, start sort of a grassrootsy kind of thing, and it doesn't go that far.
Do your organisations today where you work pretty much live and breathe this type of stuff that we're talking about? They don't?
And again, it depends on the company.
Right, okay.
The top-down company, they were engaged, but it took years.
Sure. It takes time and effort. It's just like, I mean, it took time for you to learn the things that you learned, right? It takes time and effort. But here's what happens. So if the environment's toxic or negative, and we're trying to do a cultural shift or change culture, right? And the results are negative, right? So everything's going kind of, you know, things aren't good, people aren't happy, there's a lot of people, you know, grumbling, right? Since that's the reality, right? Since that's what you're physically seeing every day, it becomes the constant thinking. Everybody's grumbling. Everybody's grumbling. Nobody's happy. And this becomes a never-ending cycle of doom because people are grumbling. We see them grumbling. We visibly see it all the time, so everybody's negative. The key is to get the thinking to change by changing experiences. I'll give you an example. I was working with a group, and I was talking about this, and this young man said, I think my boss did this. The owner of the company did this. He may not have known it. And so what did he do? He said, well, they were in manufacturing. They were manufacturing these little devices, like some sort of electronic device. And all the people that I was working with, they were team leaders of the manufacturing division. And he said, the owner of our company on a Friday night took us all out to go see an opening of a movie. The movie was called Black Hawk Down. Anybody see that movie? Wow. And he said, we just thought of some sort of team building thing. We're going to go to see Black Hawk Down. So they watched the movie, and after the movie, you know, the owner said to them, hey, do you know why I took you to see Black Hawk Down? And they said, oh, no, just team building, you know, leadership, those kinds of things. And he said, no. He said, that's not why. He said, that little device that you guys are manufacturing every day. He said, that device is an earpiece that the Marines are wearing to protect themselves, to save lives. What you're doing every day by manufacturing these little devices, saving lives and protecting our soldiers. He said that production went up over 70% after going to that meeting because people had a purpose for what they were doing. They had an owner of a company who was engaged with them and explained that purpose. You're saving lives. How does that make you go to work in the morning? I mean, they're doing this little thing with this device. Well, you know what? This device could save a life. It helped the Marines to protect us. Whole different environment. He changed the experience everyone was having at work. Culture shift, production went up. It's not that hard, but it does take consistent effort, and it does take somebody who's going to think this way, and that's what we do, right? And then we help people change it the way they do.
Can I ask, out of today, you've heard from a few of us now, what change could you possibly make tomorrow for yourself? Because don't ever go to an event and learn without putting something into practice and leveraging something, right? Even if it's one thing. What is it that you could possibly do tomorrow that could change to help you? To me, it's a deep question, but it's also one that is a genuine question from me to you because, you know, you guys, I can tell, you're young, you're energetic, you've got so much to offer. But what are you going to offer yourself? Because today we've spoken a lot about gaps in leaders and cultural, you know, change in organisations. But would someone want to share something about themselves tomorrow?
My 8-year-old has goals.
Really?
Congratulations.
Which his teachers put in place because he needed them.
But
I don't.
If you,
So,
I'll give you our goals platform for free, okay, so you can use it.
Great.
Because what Phil and I are working on, we're creating highly productive kids, which is amazing. Once you get them into that routine of reflecting, planning, and doing, it's unstoppable, absolutely unstoppable.
Game changer.
So I was thinking I should be doing that for myself. And
Fantastic.
the other piece that I liked from the 5-year-old example is that we've been talking about school goals. And he's got 3 goals that he works on. That I think 2 of them should be school, and 1 of them should be whatever he wants.
For him,
Yeah.
personal,
Right.
right.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Personal goals and professional or school goals. Yes, sir.
I do have a 14-year-old, and that is a little tough to talk to. And we didn't set much goal, in the early age.
Sure.
And now it's time to save it, but how? That's my question.
Have you got a boy or a girl?
A boy.
Choking. Choking at my 14, that's about the right age.
That's the stick, right?
Basically, what do they value the most at this age group, your age group?
Computer game.
Yeah.
What else though?
At 8-year-olds too.
Sleep.
They're going to value money really quickly.
Not yet, but yeah, I guess that maybe quickly. But
So basically, we have a secondary school program for year 8s and 9s. And if we went out there and said, guess what, we're going to create better leaders and productive people, they're going to go, hey, good stuff. Next, flick, flick, flick. But if we say to them, if you actually complete what we've told you to complete on this thing and you print out this thing and it's called a resume, you're going to impress any employer, you're going to be able to get a job, they'll do it. But as a byproduct of that, we actually create productive mindsets. But in their world, we're giving them a tangible document to negotiate to get a job. Do you know what I mean? So you can still create a goal-orientated person, but it's your positioning strategy, no different to the way we position culture at the workplace, how you position culture. If you go home and say, hey, we met this guy today who actually helps teenagers get jobs, and he 100% guaranteed, you've got to use this program, you know what your son's going to do? He's going to use the program. But you know what you're actually going to do? Alter his mindset. So don't think of your son any different to a staff member in business. You've got to still position change at home. You're going to have to negotiate with an 8-year-old, the same as you're going to negotiate with a 14-year-old. So if you're happy, I'll provide you with our program and you can use it at home. But literally it's about getting them a job. That's the whole point. Sometimes, and I can tell you now, it's about what's in it for me. You know, that's the whole key, isn't it? And welcome, Bill. How are you, sir?
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you.
Should I say good day?
Good day.
And engaging with your children, right? Because we're so disconnected today, right? With our children especially, right? We get home at night, we're tired from work, right? We might spend more time with our dog, you know, rubbing our dog's face and everything than we do with our family. And we just say, hey, honey, I'm home. So you walk in and you just play with the dog and you give all this attention, you're fully engaged with your dog because that's what the dog, and then you say, hey kids, I'm home, and you just kind of walk off and do your thing, right? So being engaged, having a platform to be engaged and be interested in the goals of the children, you know? We can't be relying on teachers and coaches to teach our kids life skills. We have to take control of that, you know, we really do. And Max mentioned something earlier about negative people at work, or negative people at work. How many of you know somebody who's really negative? Right, we all do. If you're not raising your hand, you're probably that person. But think about this for a minute. What do you do when you see, let's say you're at the grocery store, you're walking to the grocery store and you're about to turn down an aisle and there's that Mr. or Mrs. Negative. What do? You dodge them, right? You try to time the aisle so when they're coming up, you're not going down. You want to be near them, right? But what about that person in your life that's so genuinely positive, and they always say something good when they're around you, they love their family, they love their country, they love their work, they just fully engage with you. You see them down the aisle, what do? You run down and you go shake their hand and you want to have a conversation with them, right? The difference between those two people is nothing more than how they think, what their beliefs are, and how those beliefs drive their behavior, and then their actions show up in your daily routine. Yes?
So, my boss does I work in a very small company, we're 5 on a daily basis. We have meetings once a month, and occasionally he'll do this kind of pep talk. And I feel like he does it because he's learned it from a management program.
Right. It's not,
and
not genuine, it doesn't feel
well,
real.
He means 50%, right?
So that's going to give you 50% motivation.
And I just think, yeah, whatever. Right. You know, I'll keep doing my job. And I don't know if that's, I'm English and I'm naturally
might be your conditioning. Right.
So, and sometimes the American way of being super positive and yeah, everything's great doesn't sit well.
Sure.
So I don't know.
What's the alternative though? Being negative? That's the alternative, right? So people say to me, right? People do say to me, you know, this whole positive thinking, you know, movement about thinking positive, you know, I don't believe they can just think positive and great things are going to happen to you. What's the alternative?
But so we have 3 techs, and I don't agree with some of the way they're managed, but I don't know how to talk to my boss to say, hey, I think one of them's not motivated enough, and I don't really know what would motivate her.
What about asking your boss what your boss feels? What do you think how motivated do you think this person is? How motivated do you think they are? And then beyond that, what do you think we could do to make them be more motivated? And really, you know, to motivate somebody with a carrot and a stick would be temporary. We've got to get the experience to be different at work. Like that, if he's half-heartedly trying to say, hey, things are going great, it's not going to work. He has to genuinely believe that. He has to be in love with what he's doing too, and really feel that there can be some shift in culture or change, or, you know, you have to love what you do to be excited to go to work every day. I don't know, somebody earlier said that, going to work is like, I gotta get up and I gotta go to work, and it's, that person's not in love with what they're doing, but they may not have taken a real hard look at what they're doing. Maybe they got in it for the right reasons, but then the humdrum of the everyday and the routine pulled their mindset out of it, and they didn't realize that they were saving lives with the little thing. You see what I'm saying? So getting your manager or your boss to maybe revisit, hey, why are we doing what we do? What are we doing, really? Asking the question. So if somebody said to you right now, I mean, if I asked you, what do you do? If we're at a cafe, not at a networking meeting, I'm at a cafe, I'm in line, I turn around, we start to, hey, chit-chat or whatever, and I ask you, and I say, what's your name? Ida? Ida. So Ida, what do you do? How would you respond to that?
Antibiotics, drug discovery.
You'd what?
Antibiotics, drug discovery.
Okay. Anybody else? Is that what it probably says on your business card, right? What would you say if I said, hey, Max, what do you do? Accounting, right? There's nothing there that's going to get me emotionally connected to Max as far as what he does, right? There's nothing there. But if Max really drilled down and instead of saying to me, accounting, said, well, you know how, and then followed it up with something that he does that benefits somebody else, I might be connected to that emotionally, and maybe I might be able to help him. Accounting, I can't help him. But if he said, well, you know how, right, and then he went into his sort of his benefit statement to me, that would give me a whole different feeling. The reason why I share this is because when Max knows why he's doing what he does, Max will be more engaged at work and more apt to get up and be positive. But if Max is saying, I'm an accountant, labels himself as an accountant. I was with a group of people, and I asked that question to everybody around the room. And a woman said, I'm the bookkeeper. And the owner of the company was in the room, and I just saw him just go, and I looked at him, and I waited for it to come around to him, and he said, I cannot believe that you just said you were my bookkeeper. Do you know without you, this place could not function? I wouldn't know where I was financially. This guy's ADD, he's all over the place. He says, I wouldn't know where, I wouldn't be able to take a paycheck. I wouldn't know how to pay my people. You are so important and vital to this company, and you tell people you're just my bookkeeper? She felt great after that, right? That this person actually said something so positive, right? He changed her experience. Her behavior will begin to change if he continues to do that. So if you want change to happen, you got to start to change experiences. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to address your question about how to talk to your boss about that. And one of the things I've noticed in personal development for most people, I'm not going to talk about leadership development, management development, but people skill development, is that we learn to advocate for a position. All right, so you've got a position in your mind of how, maybe management should approach the problem, but it's different than what they're doing today, right? But you'd be advocating, for example, a different way, right? And it's common when we look at managers, they're trying to solve a problem. They're not, and even people, they're advocating. Everybody's advocating for something. Everybody's competing for the same things, okay, or their own little thing. But what we lack is inquiry skills. And there needs to be a balance between advocacy skills, where you're trying to sell an idea or a pitch, versus using inquiry skills. You can accomplish the same goal, but it's just a different approach. It's a different skill. So where inquiry, instead of me telling you what I want you to do, I might ask you questions that lead you with the thinking process to come to the same conclusion. Like, for example, you were asking, you were actually asking inquiry skills. And so I think because it's, in my opinion, it's an area where we haven't done as a culture, it's actually kind of a world thing. We're just not good at practicing inquiry, where we're really kind of expected to know an answer, and then we're advocating why we support that decision or answer we just picked, and less questioning and opening things up and sort of and challenging the thinking. Now, if you had gone to your boss and said, I don't think what you're doing today is the best way, or I think you need to do something different, and that's advocacy, because you're advocating for something that you believe that your manager would do. That would probably put your manager, I'd imagine, defensively, and so now he doesn't really see. The discussion is no longer about this other employee, or now it's really between you and him, and you're a threat now because you just challenged his authority, his leadership, his ability to run his show effectively, and so he's now he's in a different emotional state at this point. You're an enemy at this point, potentially. You're a threat, and he's defensive. And so by instead of bringing even going down that street, by using advocacy questions like, hey, do you think that we could, what are your ideas around, well, what do you think we could do to help improve productivity? Or what do you think it would, is there anything you could do to maybe build some more collaboration around a team? Now you haven't given him a yes or no, I'm not going to do that idea, or maybe now he's going to kind of think about it. So it's a discussion. There's no defensiveness now. You've kind of just dropped that wall. It's no longer a threat between you and him. And he might actually get the point across that, which at the end of the day, you get him thinking about, or her thinking about what it was that they weren't spending a lot of time thinking about before either. And you might not change the situation. They may not go the direction that you hoped them to go. But they're likely going to go in a different direction that they were going, because you've introduced you've opened up a discussion in a different way.
Mm-hmm. And don't tell him he's half motivating.
Would you be threatened to speak to him?
No, I have a very good relationship with him, and he's pretty open. But so when I was the third person who was hired at this company, and as we gathered 2 more, and he's migrated from the lab to solely being in the office, he's become a little bit more high and mighty. And I find it a little bit harder to be on the same playing field, because scientifically we're about the same level, but he's my boss and he does all the business side. So I find he doesn't look down, but there's a bit less trust, I feel, from his side.
Sure.
So I think so there was one with the lab meetings. It would be nice if we're always talking about goals in terms of milestones, and he's always, every now and then he'll say, oh, we must have milestones, but then the next lab meeting he forgets about it, he doesn't talk about it.
So you seem to be quite an intelligent girl, so what stops you in doing it and leading and just showing him the way?
Because I don't want to tread on his toes.
But respectfully, you know what leaders should want? Guys like you to be able to come through and, take ownership and be empowered to make a difference. So if you're non-threatening, you're helping him, you're adding value to him as an individual, plus you're adding value to the staff. To me, it ticks a few boxes, right? It's maybe a little bit of apprehension from yourself to dip the toe in the water. And, I think you'd find you may enjoy that empowerment, because I tell you now, leaders actually don't ask for permission, they just do.
Right. And you're right. That's a good point George made, because you don't get empowerment. People don't give you empowerment. Some people say, oh, I want to empower you to do something, right? People aren't empowered by that. You empower yourself to do it.
Yeah.
Just empower yourself to do it.
So you just take it instead of asking it?
Yeah,
No, you show it. You don't take it, you show it.
Sure,
So you get the other 3 staff members. You know what? I think we should have some milestones, some goals. What are they going to be?
Yeah.
I think together we can do a lot more as a unit, right? And then you've got the boss that you're educating, and he comes on your journey. Don't expect him to have all the answers, because he's doing a whole bunch of other stuff, right? And there's absolutely nothing stopping you in being a leader. Or are you waiting for me to give you this badge and go, here you go, you're a leader? That's not the way it works, though.
Give me a raise.
Yeah, but you'll get the raise.
No, I won't.
But the key here is you actually put things in action that deserve you of the raise. Do you know what I mean? That deserve, and to me it's intellectually wasteful if you know that you can contribute more but you don't because of apprehension. So, if you've got the answers, you're logical. If you just go blah, blah, blah with no solution, then you become a problem. No one wants that, right? So it sounds like you've already got the answers. Tomorrow, maybe write that to go, I'm going to do this. Ring me and let me know how you go. I'm going to give you my number. You better ring me. I'll be really interested.
In our work, in our community, we have a term that we share. It's called mutuality. And we ask people to engage in that as coworkers, right? So, and the folks who are served by the program are not seen as different than the folks who work there, which is a huge power differential shift from traditional mental health services, where one person's an expert and another person is treated. And so the support for that is a concept we call invitational leadership. So we ask people to own and be self-possessed, and to own their behavior and to own themselves, and to really strike out for the values and principles that they hold dear, and in alignment with community membership. And that forwards and raises the level of just pleasant environment that we create. The environment is so important. So, but invitational leadership and mutuality are really part of that. So I can see engaging my coworkers or peers from that perspective, that we're equal. There's nothing that I have to gain here out of this conversation. It's just, I think that intellectually we can share some ideas. We can pass it around. So it creates a safe haven.
How was tonight for you two guys?
It was awesome. Definitely very valuable for us.
Why don't you share with the group? You're about to do something quite special.
He's not an accountant, by the way.
No,
They're
entrepreneurs.
Accountants.
They're entrepreneurs.
Startup companies.
I know.
So exciting.
So at the accounting firm,
Your dad's
my dad's. No, but I had a realization, I guess, that that a lot of people. That's why I related a lot to this. That a lot of people were pretty down, and a lot of that I thought led to health. So we're in the process of trying to create some sort of a system where we can connect companies and employees to help employees maintain and improve their health through the use of, I guess, discounts to gym memberships, personal training sessions, whether it be running shoes, discounts like running shoes, like affiliate programs that would join our site, kind of creating, like you said earlier, like an ecosystem online of health and fitness. And a big part of that is also incorporating the goals. It was great to hear about that today, because I think when people start seeing results, or able to like kind of say, okay, this week I'm going to lose a pound or whatever it may be, and they can kind of see those results, and they'll keep doing it and keep bettering themselves. I guess a lot of people that I interact with that do work out, and even when I would play basketball at college, I'd be a lot happier when I was shooting around or running around than I would be if I was studying for a final for a week straight in a library room. So kind of just want to, I guess, make people happy, and we're trying to do it through fitness.
Good on you, man.
Nice.
Well done. So have you got something that you're going to do tomorrow?
I think the goals like she said earlier, I want to kind of set some goals, maybe like weekly goals, and act on them. But a lot of what we talked about today is something that I'd like to incorporate in like our company culture.
So you guys are going to set your own business up soon?
Yeah, we finally just finalized our team, which took about 3 or 4 months, but that's important, I think. So, yeah, we finalized our team, and we're moving to the right path, I think.
Fantastic.
Congratulations. Yeah, it's exciting.
So we'll grab your details, and we'll sponsor some of your customers with our program, okay?
That would be incredible.
Because it's there, and you'll be able to use it. Not a problem at all. It's a fantastic goal-setting platform.
Thank you.
For young guys like yourselves who are going to go out there and make a difference in the community, I'm really proud of you. Really, really am. Fantastic.
I just want to jump in. I had a chance to chat to both of you earlier. All the marks, guys. Go for it. Like, you really have it.
What's your company called?
Right now it's called Fit Grant. Kind of like companies will use Fit Grants on items, I guess. That's what that took a while too. So it was everything, I guess, yeah.
Good stuff. Are there any other questions, guys, at all?
I do have a question. How do you comment on, or how do you see that employees with or without entrepreneurial mindset?
Just ask the question again. How do I comment?
Yeah, how do you see? I just had a conversation with several young people yesterday about this, and to my surprise, they have some very different point of view. So I would like to see how you guys think.
I try to encourage as much risk-taking as possible in young guys, especially like this. If I was mentoring these two guys, I'd make them go from here to here straight away, because I already know they're capable of doing it. But
what about when you are the boss and your employees? Would you encourage their entrepreneurial mindset?
Would I ever?
Or you suppress them?
Would I ever? 110%. Because if you don't, you're creating average. as a culture, you've got to try to, get Ida to believe that she can run the company. So literally I just say, here, you go, take the keys. And then she's going, what's going on? You've got to do the same.
Yeah.
If you have a glimpse of someone caring enough to think, that's your job, is to get it out of them and to encourage it as much as you possibly can. Because, that's ultimately what we should be doing, is growing people. As they're growing, their idea is naturally going to help the organisation, right? They're going to help them, but they're going to help others around them. They're going to help the business. Why wouldn't you encourage that? That's just dumb practice if you don't. So no idea is generally a bad idea, because it might be a bad idea for now, but it might be good for 3 years' time. Or it might have been a great idea 2 years ago, but it still was a good idea. The key for us is just to get the ideas out of people enough to care. So, I've worked in organisations where, I've sacked 3,500 people. I've been a toe cutter for a long time. Okay, so normally I go out and look at, who's causing trouble or not, create a restructure, de-lower the place, and, when I find that people care, they never ever get sacked. Never. I usually feel sorry for them because they're never listened to. So if you've got someone with innovation that comes through, I would just encourage it. Plus some. I really, really would.
George, I want to build on that.
It depends.
If you have someone with a very strong entrepreneurial mindset, and if you try to squash that, what can happen is they can leave and become your competition. The reverse can happen is if you grow that, you partner with them, grow them, and you both benefit. Because one, you become fertile soil for them to grow, and two, you reap rewards as well as they do. And you accelerate the growth. Instead of being the competition 5 years from now, they become your partner within a year. So you both benefit. And those are the people you want. And I'm going to continue on an interesting story. I've been very blessed with some very good bosses over the years. Early on, I had a great engineering manager. I was an engineer at plant. My responsibilities kept growing. My sphere of influence kept growing and growing. And I looked at my boss and said, Nick, I said, I'm doing this, that's in someone else's department. I'm doing this, that's in someone else's department. I said, my responsibilities keep growing. And he looked at me and he says, keep grabbing until someone slaps your hand. If no one slaps your hand, keep taking the responsibility. And I was very fortunate. I was in my early career. Throughout my whole life, I think rarely once maybe someone said, hey, you're stepping out of bounds. Which is once or twice out of a few decades. So what I realized is if I keep pushing my sphere of influence and my responsibilities, I took more and more control. What I found is most people willingly gave it. You want to do it? Go ahead. And what happens is now, so now if someone needs someone, you go, oh, give Dimitri a call. He knows what to do. Well, he's in the other department, but he still knows what to do in your department. Because sphere of influence grows. So let things grow.
The sad reality is, it's really funny sometimes that we don't think of ourselves as change managers generally, right? But you are a change manager. You're a change manager to your children. You could be a change manager to your partner. You could be a change manager to your parents. Just because you're not in a manager's role, don't judge yourself because of a stupid title. That's dumb. You're all change leaders if you want to be. You're a change leader to a friend. So to me, it's actually a sickness. What I have is a sickness of never, ever, ever wanting to settle with good. I want great. So it's not about greed, it's just about being relentless at the pursuit of excellence. And excellence doesn't have a finishing line. So I don't know when to stop. I just go every day. But I can tell you, that's the choice of who I am as a person, but no one can stop that. No one. I don't listen to anybody. No one. I just keep on going. But it's not because of a title. That's just the job. It's not who George is. So you have an opportunity to be a leader because you can be. So take it. Do you know what I mean? And you're a dad. Everyone who's a dad or a mum who's got a brother or sister has an opportunity to lead. Just practice this stuff. And if you see that someone's benefiting from that, you know what, that's going to get you so hooked that you're going to want to develop someone else. And then you're going to want to develop someone else. Because the most satisfaction you'll ever get is when you make a difference to someone, trust me. It really is.
I'd like to share a story with you around with Jack Welch. Jack Welch was over at the Salem mass plant one day, came in. When Jack Welch, I'm assuming everybody knows Jack Welch, CEO of GE. And when Jack would fly in his helicopter, usually like a day or two, but definitely if he was coming in, like the alerts went out. Jack's coming in, everybody reads.
Point up,
yeah,
quick.
everybody, you got fix your papers. You better know your numbers, like what were your numbers? Everybody knows their numbers, so, you know, in case he asks you. Well, there was a gentleman there that had worked there for a number of years, actually had retired, but they had called him back in, okay, they needed some extra support, whatever, but they called him back in as a contract, so he had nothing to lose. So a lot of union shop stuff, so people weren't going to speak up, but Jack came by, shaking hands, and anyways, Jack went up to, this gentleman came up to Jack and shook his hand and said, Jack, while he was shaking his hand, I've worked for you for 35 years. I gave you my blood, I gave you my sweat, I showed up every day, I worked hard for you. You paid me every day too, and I appreciate that. Put food on the table. You gave me a job, I worked hard for that money. And I earned that money. He said, but not even once out of those 35 years did you ever ask me for what my thoughts were. And I gave it to you for free. That changed the way Jack thought about things. I think he wrote a book, it says, control your own destiny or somebody else will. That's a value, you know. That's a value to want to not settle for less, to strive for excellence. And it's something that can be created, you know, through culture, through family, through respect of other people that mentor. I mean, but I think that it's something that we you know, we got to reflect on. Are we going to work to do what somebody else asked us to do, and I checked the box and clicked the button and crossed the T, and you know, and I got paid, and are you happy? I mean, you can work real hard and never really be happy with this, but that's a mindset. And I think you have to. I asked my grandfather when I was 11 what to do when I grew up. I didn't know, you know, should I be a teacher? Should I be a mason? What should I do with Grandpa? And he said, first, find what makes you happy, and then find a way to get paid for it. So I was thinking about what you were saying about your son and stuff, and I was thinking, you know, what can I do, you know, to get him out of the little rut that he's in or whatever, or have a conversation with him. And I would suggest actually having that conversation with him, a crucial conversation with him, that would allow you to sort of let him talk about what it is he wants, but also be able to share what you want for him too, so that some of those values can at least be agreed on or understood. And I'll bet you'll find some common ground. He might not get out of bed in the morning like he's supposed to. He might still sleep all the time and do what kids do.
That's okay. The thing is, we had a few conversations, and the thing is that he is so much into computer games. All these years, I cultivated his interest in science, got into the secondary or tertiary place. And so we had some conversations and asking what he's going to do in the future, and his mom was asking. And he said he wanted to be working for a company that makes computer games. I said, fine. Now, how are you going to achieve that? He didn't know. Then there comes SAT, there comes study, and he was just like, oh, nah, not that work. Computer games is fun. So, in that case, I mean, he sees his goal, and he wants to do that, and he even once, when I got him pretty annoyed, he wrote down on a piece of paper saying, I don't mind to work from the very low position, getting the minimum wage. I said, good, but as long as they take you in as an employee, and if they don't take you on work, where do you get that minimum wage? And he, no answer. So kind of like there's something disorienting.
Ring up a game company.
What?
Ring up a game company.
He knows all the names.
Ring one up and tell him you're a dad. Tell him you've got a 14-year-old son and you want to know what he needs skill-wise to get a job. Get them to write down what they need and put on their degree and go, here you go.
And take him to go meet someone at that company.
Correct. See, you are a change manager.
We even tried to talk to some guy that has some ideas about this, and unfortunately we didn't catch that guy long enough, so he can really write down things. And
Carol Dweck has an online motivational program called Brainology, and it's academic, and it challenges people to perform and put effort in and to get connected. And they found she took her understanding of motivation and mindset and went to gamers, video gamers, and asked them to develop a tool to change lives. My son was interested in music, and he also went to WPI as a senior in high school through a math program. And I said, wow, while you're at WPI, can you look at how frequency and music are connected in healing? How are you going to explore what you want to do in life? And so it was met with a resounding duh. If I knew about her program, I would want to connect her.
What's the name again?
Carol Dweck and DWEK, and I think the name of the program is Brainology. What they don't have is a goals program. And I think they should.
Thanks for the idea of calling the
Just call them, go down together.
Yeah.
Go down together and say, hey, how does this guy get a job? He needs a degree. Okay, you better fix that, son. Pretty simple. It's pretty simple.
My 14-year-old did iGoals, and he went from doing no homework. Like, hey, is your homework done? Oh, I can't believe you questioning my dignity and my honesty. And I get the report. I'm like, dude, I was just asking a question, and your teacher said no. So when I had the honor and joy of George having a word with him and asked him what is he interested in, he didn't say, hey kid, do your homework. He said, what you're interested in. He wants to work. He wants to be in the NFL. I'm like, okay, all right. And you know what? With a few minutes a week of attention, he got to doing his homework without being asked. And he's working on fitness goals. He's 14. He can bench press 185 pounds. He can squat a little bit over 200. 14? 14.
Sometimes an external party has more influence over your son than you do.
Yeah. I have nothing.
So you've got to introduce him to that area, right? Introduce him to that area and let him be influenced by what he admires and respects and wants. You as the change manager don't have to have the solutions. Just find what you need to create the change. That's all it is. It's a game of cards, you know what I mean? It's just put things in place to make it happen. That's pretty much what you've got to do.
Yeah, this is also related to my second question, which is how are you going to motivate or turn your employee into someone who with entrepreneurial mindset?
How do you get them going?
I mean, yeah, you just mentioned, several of you.
Give them money, that normally helps. Give them praise, give them time off, give them recognition, give them a certificate.
No, those are just motivational, but how to change,
I'll give you an answer to that.
into an entrepreneur?
So I had a friend, his name is Stephen Kane, and he actually works at Gember Academy. And he has some videos online, and he tells some of the stories. I'm not sure if they're on YouTube right now or if they're on the Gemba site, but one of the things he did, and I do Lean Six Sigma too, so but I hadn't seen it approached the way he did because I hadn't had the authority as a consultant. He owned he was the manager of this company that he owned. He had a number of employees. I don't remember the kind of company. It might have been a manufacturing company. But what he did was he looked at his management responsibilities, right? So he was spending time doing emails, PowerPoints, signing forms. He was doing management stuff. He didn't have any time to do any of the employee oversight, give him feedback, micromanage him even. He had none of that time. So what he ended up doing was he first of all, the reason he was doing the management tasks, nobody else knew how to do. Okay, and he didn't understand what the process was that they were using to do the thing that they were doing. So first he started to walk the process. He called it a Gemba walk. He'd walk the process and learn what people were doing. Now at first people were suspicious, like, why is the boss watching what I'm doing, right? So, but he did this every day and made it a part of his daily routine. And eventually they started talking to him and he'd ask questions, and so he had built up some rapport with them. And then once he got a good understanding of what it was they were doing, he saw all kinds of opportunities that he could improve things, right? But he didn't want to dirty the water and you know, say, hey, look, this is what I want you to do, and have them change that way, because it might not have been the best way, but he had ideas just like probably they did. So what he did was he took the team into the offices. It was a slow transition, like by months, not immediate, but what he did was he said to the team, this is what success is. He told them what success was. This was from the customer's perspective. The customers come to us and they buy these things, so this is what they want. This is why I'm so driven, because I'm getting the phone calls from the customers, and there's some urgent stuff and things you guys did that made mistakes, and I got to deal with this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to answer the phone anymore. And I'm not going to call the customer. I'm not even going to tell you which on the team who's going to do it, but you guys are going to take over the management responsibilities. So somebody's going to talk to the customer. So here's the phone. All right. Somebody's going to have to make sure that the product and the services get done right. This is what done right looks like. How you do it, that's up to you. So he now they were all freaking like, well, we don't know how to do the manager job. What are you going to do? Well, you're supposed to be the manager. You're supposed to do this stuff. So instead of being the guy who did the management stuff, he became the coach. He said, no, you're going to do it, but I'm going to coach you. So I'm going to spend my day teaching you what I do, so you understand how to do it, so you'll be able to do your job and my job. But it took a while, wasn't immediate, but today, there is no management. The team runs the process. They feel that ownership and urgency that the manager had. And the manager's still there, but he's a coach. So when they come to him, it's not to solve the problem. He'll remind them of where the goals are, you know, what the goal is, but it's really to remove barriers and offer support. And if they need coaching or help on that, then he transfers the knowledge, but he doesn't, all right, you screwed up here, let me take it from you, I'll get this done right next time, I'll give it to somebody else who knows what they're doing. That kind of stuff stopped. That was the old management style. And that's a big shift, obviously, right? I mean, and he had he didn't know, by the way, he didn't have control over the whole company. He only had his one area. There was a larger company here. But when they looked at the results at the end of the year, they went from last to first. And the other companies, other divisions were wondering what he was doing. He's like, well, it's not really easy to explain. He's like, well, I need to know what you're doing as a manager to produce these results. It's like, I'm not managing them. What do you mean? I'm letting them let their creativity come out. They know that they're wasting their time doing certain activities. They knew that they had to expedite stuff sometime, and the expedition process obviously skipped the steps where there was waste. And so, you know, and they knew that they could get more money out of the customers because they found out about that because they're talking to them. I'll give you a big order if you can get these things to me on time. Guys, we can make more money around this thing. So the whole bonus, incentive, everything, he divided that up amongst them too. He said, this is the management bonus. If you get it done, if you get these numbers, you get that money, and then it's your money. So it changed the whole culture, obviously, as a result. It wasn't easy. I'm not going to recommend that you do exactly the same thing. But think about what this person did. He was independently sort of holding on to that tribal knowledge that only he had, and so nobody else can do it. A lot of employees do that too. And he basically eliminated his own job and coached other folks to do that. And it just made a huge transformation in the company and the culture and the attitudes. In fact, you know, the original question was, how do I create an entrepreneur? That created a lot of entrepreneurs because they were no longer employees. They were the ones running the company.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful.
There's a company in New Hampshire that did a similar kind of thing, and he even gave them a certain dollar amount that they could spend. You know, if it's less than $1,000, you just do it, and you make it happen. And
gave control of the petty fund, right? Yeah,
it's awesome.
Don't need. Do I get permission to spend the money?
You don't ask, it's your money, you do what you need to do with it.
It's your money.
Mike,
Yes,
thank you very much for arranging this.
you're very welcome. So
It's very special to me. First time in 10 years.
Oh yes, the interesting thing about this specific event is that it's been his goal for 10 years to actually come over to the U.S. and present a bunch of U.S. professionals. So there you go. A 10-year goal in the making. Let's give him a round of applause.
Perseverance pays off.
If things go wrong, we can knock it down. My 3 words have 2 meanings, but there's one thing on my mind. It's all for you. And it's dark in a cold December, but I got you to keep me warm.